Patterns. Like I say, when I learn something new, I come to share it with you. And today, what we're going to be discussing is patterns. What are patterns? What is a pattern? And I'm also going to talk about the difference between patterns and actions. Okay. Or should I start a poll? Why is it that the only place I can have this thing is right there in my face? Whatever. I think I'm going to get out the wind on this one because it's a little bit windy. But for now, what I can say is that I never judge anyone on their actions. I judge people on their patterns. Because anybody can act. Anybody can play a role. People role play all the time. Sometimes they forget that they're playing a role, and that role becomes their real life, and real life becomes the role. So they put aside real life and they play the role, and they start acting a certain way. But regardless of how someone acts, you will always be able to see who that person is from their patterns. And a pattern is something of habit, like a creature knowing exactly where the food is, when and what time of year, what areas, how to scout. And it's always going to follow that pattern. It's like a wavelength. Once you stay on a wavelength, you'll stay in consciousness. And once you get off the wavelength, now you're jumping back and forth between actions and patterns. So the difference between actions and patterns. They say don't judge people by their actions. Don't judge people by what they say. Judge people by their actions. But if you judge someone by their actions, it's easy to be misled and it's easy to be lied to because they know how to act towards you. They know how to act to get what they want out of you. They know how to act, to make you feel as if you wouldn't be better off. And that's how we fall into the trap of looking for how people act. Sometimes you can tell a pattern from how people speak and how people, articulate themselves. I never I never used to speak this proper. I never used to speak with this much intent. I never used to speak with this much thought. Before I spoke, I used to, you know, be spontaneous at the mouth, and my father used to always have to tell me you have to think before you speak. So that was beaten physically into me because I would say things, and children are the most honest when they're not programmed and indoctrinated. That's how you fall off the pattern because your pattern is spiritual. And now you're forcing yourself to be on a physical acting aspect of a pattern. So they lay it out and it looks like a pattern because it's something that you do every day, but that's just creating habit. And while you're creating habit and you're doing something every day, that's not a pattern. That's being programmed and being trained and being developed. When you're on a certain pattern, you don't need to be trained or taught. It's like second nature. When you feel happy, you're going to smile. When you feel like something's funny, you're going to laugh. When you feel like you're tired, you're going to take a nap. When you feel like you're hungry, you're going to go and get food. When you feel like you need to exercise, you're going to go and you're going to walk, and you're going to know exactly where to go. You're going to have a specific, you know, a specific radius of your energy of where you could feel certain energies, and you're going to subconsciously stay away from those areas, or you'll subconsciously find a different path. But you'll always be on that pattern because you'll be staying within your spiritual soul. You'll be staying within your spiritual body. You won't be going on the same route that you take because the GPS says so, right? You might take a left and, take 5 more minutes to go down the scenic route because you just feel spontaneous that day. And that's a pattern. And that's when the soul is searching for adventure. That's when the soul is searching for more life. When you're on habits, that's where you can see someone's actions. Actions create habits. Because like I said, we forget that some people play a role and they forget that they have real life to live, and they swap real life with the role, and they play the role as if it's real life, and they play real life as if it's a role. That's why a lot of people are more real on the internet, and when you see them in real life, they're not what they seem. And they used to tell you all the time, don't meet your heroes, because when somebody is acting a certain way, they can cause you to feel like that is their personality, right? And a personality is somebody's pattern, what somebody does every single day, what somebody does when they're in a certain emotion, what somebody does when they're in a certain state of mind. That's a pattern. An action is what you're taught, is what you're programmed, right? When you're going to school, go to work, get a job, get a house, get a this, get a that. Like, that's all actions. And it doesn't lead to any real happiness. That's why a lot of people today are not really buying homes, because that's not part of their pattern. That's not part of their path. That's just an avenue that they're acting to be associated with the unnatural anomaly. unnatural anomaly. Excuse me. So when somebody's acting, you'll be able to tell you'll be able to tell the difference if they're being real or if they're just playing a role by what they do on their day to day. You can have a conversation with somebody and they can talk a whole good talk, a whole good game. They could talk a whole good game. And you could be like, yeah, you got it. You got it all figured out. But then as you see that person on the day to day, as you see that person doing what they do, you will be able to tell if whatever they told you was real or if it was just an act or if they were just playing a role. Because somebody's actions, they can act just to be able to fool you. They can act long enough for whatever they need to accomplish to be able to be accomplished. And that comes with learning somebody, and it also comes with taking advantage of somebody, and it all comes full circle. You can't have one without the other because you will lose it all. And if you can't tell someone's patterns, you'll be falling for an act. So I hope that, you know, this spontaneous live, because I didn't think about coming on live. I was just on my walk. I was doing a little editing. I had just took some notes, did some writing, and I was just thinking, how is it that good people get treated bad, and bad people and liars, they get treated the way that good people are supposed to be treated? And then I also started to think, well, they don't judge people by their words, they judge them by their actions, but anybody can act as long as they need to be able to accomplish a goal that they have. I can act and lie because I'm not telling the truth. Once I start acting, I'm not being myself. I'm not on my spiritual path. I'm not on my pattern. I'm playing a role. Even if I'm speaking, right? They say, yo, don't judge people by their words, judge them by their actions. Well, if I want to accomplish something through you, I can know how and learn you and know how to act around you and know what to say and know how to move around you only when I'm around you. But when I'm no longer around you, then my natural patterns start to set in. My natural habits that I naturally do start to set in. Maybe I got that wrong. Maybe patterns and habits are the same, and actions and yeah, I think patterns create, when it's a natural habit, it's a pattern. And when it's not a natural habit, it's an act, because you have to play a role in order to blend in or in order to accomplish a certain goal. So when you see someone and you speak to someone, you can judge them by their words because their patterns are also involved in the way that they speak. Their habits are also involved in their patterns, right? You have a habit of sucking your thumb. So every day when you go to bed, you're going to suck your thumb. You have a habit of biting your fingernails. That's a habit. And that's a habit that is created because you're not on your natural pattern. So your body is searching for a way to bring itself that pleasure of ignoring the natural pattern because you have to act. So it causes you to build up a certain anxiety. So you start biting your nails. You start biting the inside of your cheeks. You start doing it. You start chewing gum. You start smoking cigarettes because you're not on your natural path. You're not on your natural pattern. You have to act and you have to play a role to be involved in society. That's a tricky one. That's a real tricky one, right? Because someone's actions are not necessarily their pattern, but someone's pattern is definitely their actions, their true actions. Like someone that's naturally known to hunt, they can't come out of the wilderness and be forced to go to the grocery store and buy processed food when their natural way of living is to go out, get what they have to eat for that day, bring it back, say their prayers and their blessings, and then enjoy that meal. So you remove somebody from that natural pattern and that natural habitat, and now they have to play a role, and now they have to force themselves to act a way that they're not naturally meant to act. Like when a spiritual being is forced to be sat down in a physical place, and then they're given a spiritual being to pray to and praise, while all of those scriptures are being manipulated for them to be forced to act a certain way that they're not naturally meant to act. This is a very, very tricky one. I'm puzzled. I'm even puzzled on this one. I probably shouldn't have jumped on here and started talking about it, because now this is right here, this live that I'm doing is the process that I take when I go and I dissect certain thoughts that I have. And I come to conclusions and I bring solutions. This is gonna help somebody. I know for a fact that this process right here is gonna be able to help somebody figure out how somebody's acting, and to see them in their natural habitat and know how they really are, and to see if they're just acting a role just to get in their bed or get in their pants or get this or get that. Because if you're a naturally kind person, you're not going to look for problems. You're not going to look for an issue. You're not going to look to speak down or talk down or be passive aggressive or pessimistic. You are going to be optimistic. You are going to remove yourself, and you are going to develop and continue to grow and learn from whatever situation or scenario just played itself out. That's why, like, I could put it into music. Some artists want to make songs and they, subliminally diss other artists, or they, blatantly straight out diss other artists, and those artists that they diss, they don't even give them a response, because that other artist is just playing a role and acting to get something out of that other artist. That artist's natural pattern, natural habit is probably to rap about hustling, rap about getting out of the suffering of day-to-day struggles, but they have been programmed, and in that programming it says you can gain more traction and get more attention by starting a feud or saying somebody's name and having them say your name, and now your name is being spoken. And that's where they use their light to serve that one little level of darkness, which is just dragging you down to the lowest form of yourself. When the symbol P has so much potential. That's why it's important to do your research on people. Do your research on everybody. They're going to do their research on you. If they're smart, they will do their research on you. It's easy to be honest for me. It's hard for me to lie because I know what lying is. I could be honest even if it kills me. And that's a pattern and a natural habit for me. I rather walk towards the trees in the forest and an apple tree or a watermelon bush or a strawberry bush rather than to walk to the corner store and get some chips. That's my natural pattern. My natural pattern is to climb the tree and pick some chenep. They call it genep or kenep. Or, go and get a mango. Climb the tree and get some mango. Make some mango chow. Make some chenek chow. Right? That's when you get the peppers and the black pepper, the salt. You cut up the mango, put it in a bowl, put all that seasoning in there, put the pepper on top. So good. That's my natural pattern. That's my natural habit. My natural habit isn't to stay in four walls and to turn on the artificial air or the artificial cooling, because that's what AC stands for, artificial cooling. There's a compressor in there that compresses the air from outside and transmit it and pushes it through a machine that has coils that either heats up or cools, and it cools as it blows. The fan, the coils cool or they heat, and the fan blow, and it blows that. That's not my natural habitat. I can't stay in an air-conditioned room. That's artificial cooling. I'd rather be outside. I'd rather have the windows open. Let some fresh air in. That's my pattern. That's my natural habit. I'd rather smoke some weed than pick up a cigarette. I'd rather smoke a cigarette than pick up a bottle. You actually lose time when you drink. And the time that you lose when you drink, you can gain that time back when you smoke. It's crazy. But I'll be honest, even if it kills me. I can't judge people on their actions because anybody could play a role. I'll say that again. I can't judge anybody by their actions because anyone can play a role. I judge people by their patterns, their way of life. What do they do naturally when nobody's around? How do they treat people when nobody's looking and they can't and there's no cameras on and there's no humanitarian award for how you act and treat people when the cameras are on, but as soon as the cameras are off, you got hand sanitizer and you got soap and water and you putting on gloves and you feeling all nasty because you had to shake a bunch of people's hands that voted for you or donated a bunch of their hard-earned money so you can get your business open or your funding for your certain plan or idea or policy. I judge people how they act naturally. That's why I don't try to change people. I used to try to change people, yo, and I used to go hard. And I used to kind of get upset because people wouldn't listen to me. But then I started listening to me, and I started to pay attention to my patterns and how I was having to force myself to act for other people. See, this is about me. I'm bringing you along on my journey. That's why when I learn something, I come on here and I teach it. I'm a master student. I will learn my enemy, and my enemy will be destroyed. Because the enemy has a natural pattern, and that natural pattern isn't what you see. It's what you feel from what they say and what you know from how you see them act. You know that intuition. You have that intuition, and it kills you when you ignore it and it turns out to be right every single time. And you think maybe this time it'll be different. No, you already felt it. You already felt the truth. You already got the vision. We all seen that, so Raven. You already saw the future. So now you're gonna betray yourself, and you're gonna force yourself to act and then be fooled, and then go back and kick yourself in the ass. And this is what keeps a lot of my people from taking accountability and responsibility for each other and themselves. Because you knew better. You knew better. That's the difference. You knew better. You had the feelings, you had the emotions, you had that gut feeling. The truth resonated and it left, and then all the lies started flooding in. It flooded in so much so that you couldn't even tell the difference between your intuition and your back itching. Kind of speaking to myself. Technically, I am speaking to myself, but this message can help everybody else. This process right here. Me doing this whole dissection of, do you judge by patterns or actions? Because anybody could act and play a role. But their natural patterns sends out that signal that you feel in your soul. I'm gonna be honest, even if it kills me, and I will never fold. Thank y'all for tapping in. Pray y'all have a good day.